Hey guys, this is Katrina from Recruiting Daily, joined by my very special guest, editor of Recruiting Tools, Jackye Clayton. And as we were coming up with this article, and we started talking about this whole everything that's happening right now, I think we figured out that if we were going to write about having hard conversations, that it might make sense to just have the hard conversation on video, where we can be really uncomfortably honest and hope that it sheds some light on what you can do and what works. Like not what works, but how to get past that uncomfortableness to get to a productive place. And I know for me, I've been feeling like I want to talk to people about the Black Lives Matter movement and to understand it better and to say, like, I want to talk about this situation, but I think for me, I run into a wall where I don't want to seem racist. Like, how might you ask someone or talk to them about this and not make it a political or racist conversation? Do you have any suggestions?
I do. Number one, you better make sure you're really not racist.
I am not.
Well, not you.
Yeah,
but universal.
Dig deep into that.
Make sure that you know that. And the other thing is to ask questions but understand exactly what you're trying to know. What makes things uncomfortable is when you start talking in really broad terms and you just don't want to get to it. For example, my husband's white and I have my children, and people would ask me the weirdest things, and then finally it goes, "Is your husband white?" And I was like, "Yes!" Like, finally.
That's what we were getting. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I would definitely do that, and make sure that you know why you're asking the question. Some things are just not anybody's business,
right?
And I think that most people are open in the conversation when you're coming from a place of learning and not a place of criticism,
right? Because you can say, have you ever experienced something like they have, or like a an arrest or a ticket? Like last night we were talking, and you said, I've had my husband drove around my car for 3 months. And with expired tags, and he never got pulled over, and you drove it for 1 day, and you did.
I did. And
right?
we never thought about it. I mean, that's the other part. I think people take for granted, like they see me or my lifestyle, they see me every day on Recruiting Tools, and then they just assume that all of a sudden, since they relate to me or my writing, that I'm not Black and haven't had those experiences. Now, granted, I'm a member of Junior League. It was, raised in Carrollton, Texas, and some of those things. But I think that it's just important that you recognize me for me. And I think you remember, because we were on a show together, and someone asked us about our diversity experience and said, "I don't think of y'all as diverse people." And I was like, "Okay, well, she's lesbian, I'm Black." Like, in case you didn't know, though everything we talk about is a frame of reference from our life.
And it's our context. It's telling a story from a first person narrative instead of a third person narrative. It's really understanding and having a feeling that's associated with why I'm so passionate about it, why I feel like I need to be an advocate on behalf of LGBT people, and saying that we're not diverse, it kind of questions, like, well, what do you think my motivations are for? So I think really the point that we're trying to get to is that you need to know your intent, right? You kind of need to know what you're trying to learn and be curious. We encourage curiosity.
That's right.
But we encourage it with respect.
Right.
With honesty, with openness, and to realize that you can't argue with someone about their frame of reference.
That's right.
You can't tell them they don't understand, or you can't tell people what they're not. You can't decide for them. You need to be open to hearing their side and listen, and it's okay. It's okay to have the question, to have the conversation, because we have to. That's it, and it's going to come up. Our workplace, we spend 40 hours a week there.
Yep.
You spend the most time with your coworkers. It's worth having the conversation so that you can build the relationship. And I know that you and I have built a better relationship by learning more about those hardships and kind of bonding over our experience.
Well, and that's the thing that was always awkward for me. I mean, right before this and everything, like we heard Orlando, and it was like, how am I supposed to react? Like, should I say something? Like, should I say, oh, I'm sorry? Or, like, how do you feel when people, like, if they want to acknowledge something like that, that's hard with you, or seeing something going on? Like, how do you think that people should reach those types of conversations?
Well, I think, so for me, the first thing I always do is tell them it's really okay. Because I don't think people think it's okay to ask me questions about being gay or coming out or any of that, and it really is. I want to educate people. And I think when it comes to something like that, I think we're mourning together.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it. And when you approach it saying, like, this is really hard, are you okay? That's human. That's not gay, straight, that's not black and white. That's just, are you okay? How is the world impacting you today?
And that's a great way to like address the Black Lives Matter movement, is to come in there like, are you okay? Like, I've noticed these things, I know what's going on, especially now. It's not just we're not hearing about people getting hurt, we're seeing it. Yeah, there's a reason why they stopped doing that with wars when people get hurt, because it was affecting people in such negative ways. But now, the situation with the girl in the car, it was live on Facebook. Like, the world is looking at these situations, and it's devastating. I think that we are mourning not just the actual situation. I think most people are mourning their own safety and mourning what kind of world that we live in when people think it's so great.
Exactly.
But the best way is always to communicate and educate yourself. Yeah. And again, you don't have to say everything that you're feeling.
Nor do you have to agree with everyone.
You don't have to agree, but if you're curious, just ask. Like you said, but make sure you're asking a safe person. Don't walk up to a stranger.
Yes.
And don't pass judgment before understanding everybody's individual situation.
Yes. And be self-aware. Actually, I was listening to the Animal Show last week, and I'm giggling because of the way Jerry said this. But he said, when someone thinks you're an asshole. You do. And that's, use your gut. Use your instincts. Use your emotional intelligence to have a conversation if you feel like that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
And your workplace should be safe to do that.
It should be. And if not, just go to Human Resources. They can find people.
Right.
To talk to, but read about it. And I think especially with this, with the Black Lives Matter movement, is really going to the website and understanding what the whole background is. Because it changed my view of what it was. And I think that that's always going to be important. But just like everything else, when you see something online, it doesn't mean it's true.
Exactly.
Necessarily.
Consider the source.
That's right.
The news is going to add adjectives that make a story feel and look just a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And it's worth taking the time, taking a step back, going directly to the source, or asking, what are some resources that I might look at? I'm interested in learning more. Where could I look? And just being educated. I absolutely agree. And that's uncomfortable conversations. That's how you do it. And I
have these every week.
I was going to say, I don't feel like that was uncomfortable.
I know.
I feel like I actually learned something just now that I hadn't thought of going to their website. I hadn't, I know a lot about it. I read a lot about it on Facebook, but even that is so biased.
Well, and what was so interesting about their website, they're like, okay, so we're going to focus on helping Black people, which in and of itself helps the world because we're helping people. Exactly. And it was different, and it had this whole multiculturalism, any kind of group. I mean, it was really interesting. It was different than what we thought. And I just think, one of the other things that I said is that if you're confused about Black Lives Matter, then break it down to your own group, your own social group. And remember, it's like saying this person matters and I don't want this person to hurt. Yeah. If it's really confusing, just start really small. If you can't be part of a movement, right? But just think about it. It's like at the end of the day, that's what we want to prevent. People hurting just because someone doesn't like them. Yep. Doesn't like their skin color. Yeah. And I'll tell you, that's one of the scariest things that, we've always said. There's discrimination against the LGBT community, discrimination against all sorts of different groups.
For 1,000 reasons.
And another thing that was important, and I know, sorry, we ended. But another thing that was somebody put is like this, is that the Susan G. Komen cancer example was great. Like, breast cancer awareness. Well, there's a lot of cancer. Nobody's saying that, you know, this is the only
Breast
cancer.
is best.
Why?
I had to.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, so just because you're doing like a breast cancer walk, you don't see people coming in slapping it like, oh no, it's about the Garrett's disease.
It's all cancer
about
matter.
This, it's about that. Yeah, all cancer. Nobody's going around like putting tapes of prostates all over the place, saying you can't care about breast cancer. It's all about it. It's not that. It's bringing attention to something that needs attention. It's been going on for way too long. So. Try to put it in stuff like that, and don't put it out on the internet.
Yeah,
Save yourself.
absolutely.
You know?
All right. Well, you can always find us. I am Katrina Kibben, editor at Recruiting Daily. You'll see our posts regularly, and of course, Jackye is on Recruiting Tools. If you want to find us, you can find us. All right. Bye, guys.